everyone, welcome back to my channel and today's video, which is another story time video. You guys have been really enjoying my story times at the moment and I have a lot of stories to share. So obviously you've seen the title, let's just get into explaining this very crazy situation which cost me a lot of money. So time for the backstory. I worked at Disney World in the summer of 2018 on a Disney cultural exchange program. I am from the UK and it's basically an international program they do. We can go and work there for 3 months. So yep, I was a cast member and this story takes place in July and I've been working at Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios is one of the 4 parks they have at Disney World. It's the one that's getting Star Wars very soon. It's a very exciting place to be. And I actually had done a previous program where I was stationed at Hollywood Studios the whole time. This second program I was working somewhere else, but I'd picked up a shift in my old location. So this was going to be a wonderful day. Until it wasn't. My shift started, I believe, around 3 o'clock and was going through until about 9:30. I pretty much clocked into my shift and was told immediately that we were in 101, which meant that there was lightning in the area and a storm was coming and everything was basically shutting down. So I was supposed to be in an outdoor cart, but I was placed into like an inside store with the Indiana Jones store with another girl and basically waited out there for a couple hours while it started raining. It was like a decent Orlando storm. It wasn't anything too crazy. However, the thing with Orlando storms is normally they take place for around 30 minutes, they dump all their water and then the world moves on, the sun comes out, life goes on. This wasn't the case on that day. I spent my whole shift hopping back and forth between different locations as we went 101 and then we weren't and then we were and then we weren't, and basically going from inside to outside and dealing with grumpy guests who weren't happy because of the weather, because apparently it's something we can control, selling loads of ponchos, having guests angrily ask if the fireworks were going to go ahead, if the outdoor shows were going to go ahead. Obviously no, we don't want you to die. It just wasn't the most ideal situation. Obviously I got to hang out with some old co-workers, but on the whole the shift was a little bit rubbish just because the rain basically. However, the end of the night came and I was stationed at Frozen, which is one of the stores obviously selling Frozen merchandise. It's like a half inside half outside location, so I was kind of out in the elements and I could see that the rain was, if anything, getting heavier. And as the end of the night gets closer and closer and my clock out time comes closer and closer, the rain's just getting worse and I'm like, great, I have to walk back to the break room in this is gonna be so fun. I'm gonna get my whole costume wet and my shoes. If only my shoes were the only thing that ended up getting destroyed that night. But I managed to go back to the backstage area to clock out, put on my rain poncho and sprint to the break room to grab my stuff. So from there the idea was I was going to go back to stay with my family at the Grand Floridian Hotel they were staying at using my cast member discount because it's a very expensive hotel. So I was going to go stay with them for the night. Normally what you do when you're on these programs is you get a bus back to Disney housing, but instead I was going to try and call a Lyft ride. My other options were to go and get a bus to go to the hotel. They had like resort buses that will take the guests back, but that was like a couple minutes walk from where the backstage exit area was. So I was like, oh, you know what, it's gonna cost me like $10, I'm just gonna call a Lyft. Just $10. So obviously there's loads of people around. The visibility is horrific because this storm is literally the worst thing I've ever seen, like pellets of rain just pounding down on the pavement. It's like visibly risen, like there is water level coming up to our shoes. So I call my Lyft and I'm just waiting there, and obviously I'm expecting it to be a bit longer than usual because of the weather, it's high demand, but actually it comes relatively quickly and I see it, you know, like coming down the GPS. And the way it works at Hollywood Studios, this is important. So you come down the main kind of like entranceway and then on the left of the cars there's kind of like a cast member parking area, and there's also a kind of pickup area for Lyft and Uber and taxis and stuff. And then on the right side there's the general guest parking and the resort buses, and there's also like a little waiting area where you can stand, but you have the option when you're coming down this road to go in either direction. So obviously I was standing on the side with the cast member exit and where all of their cars are, because I'm not going to go like walk out into the uncovered pickup area on the guest side. So I see my Lyft coming down the street and I'm thinking, yep, gonna be home and dry in 20 minutes tops. And then it turns right and goes into the other pickup area, and of course I'm thinking they're gonna figure it out. The rain is so intense, there's no way they want me to walk over to that area. Like, it was about a 3-minute walk, if that, but in that rain, 3 minutes, not doing it. I can't even explain how intense this rain was. Like, I've never seen anything like it. So I see the Lyft park up and I get a little notification that your Lyft has arrived. I'm thinking, that can't be serious. It can't actually expect me to go over there. So I'm standing there for a minute, kind of in shock, just looking at my phone like, not happening. But then I'm like, you know what, I don't want to get a $5 no-show fee. I'm just gonna have to face it and start going out into the rain. So I step out and I'm drenched within about 5 seconds through my rain poncho, fabulous, and I'm trying to find this car, because even though there is like a pickup area, it's not a small area, you know, there's a lot of people at Disney. So I have my phone out and I'm like walking to where they are, and then what I see my Lyft start to do is move. It's moving again, but it's not heading towards my direction. It's just like moving out of the space it was and sort of going further away from where I am. It's just driving. And I'm thinking, dude, this is not the time to be moving. It is raining. You need to stay in the exact same spot. And I'm like, this is not happening right now. I am drenched. I just want to get home. I have been working. Please stop. And then what happens? The Lyft driver calls me and it shows up on my phone and I'm like, what does he want now? So I go to tap it to accept and my phone glitches. Basically the screen just like juts and then it starts flashing and then it's like green and then it's like everything is blurred, like double vision. It's just getting worse and worse and worse and I can't pick up the call and my phone is just ringing from this Lyft driver. They then cut off. I can't even see anymore where the car is because it's just going around. Obviously my phone has had water damage from the rain. It was that bad in the space of about a minute. So I'm trying to rapidly dry it off, at the same time freaking out, standing out in the rain. What do I do? Do I go and find this Lyft driver? Do I go back to safety? Do I go to the resort buses? I don't know what to do. I'm stressed. Everything is a nightmare. It's just raining and I'm wet and then I try and kind of like dry my phone off and go under a slightly covered section where the buses are. I get a notification through that I have missed my Lyft drive and I've been charged the $5 no-show fee, what I was trying to avoid in the first place, and this driver decides just to leave, which is amazing. Then I think I'll just try and call my sister. She's at the hotel room, she will still be awake. Of course my phone isn't responding to my touch though, so what am I gonna do? There's no way I can call an Uber or a Lyft anymore. So I decide, you know what, let's just go to the resort buses. So I run to where the resort bus area is. The first one that pulls in, luckily, thank God, is one going to the Contemporary, which is in the same kind of resort area as the Grand Floridian, and I'm like, it's fine, get on this bus. Then when I get to the Contemporary, it's still time, the monorail will be running and the monorail will go from the Contemporary to the Grand Floridian and it will all be okay. It's not all okay. So I get on this bus and I am frozen to the bone because obviously I'm completely soaked. I'm rapidly trying to dry my phone on my clothes to think maybe something, you know, will come of it, maybe it'll start working again. I'm turning it on and off, which I've learned in retrospect is the worst thing to do. Finally I am able to touch it. It's still like a blurred vision but it will respond. I managed to touch the contacts bit, call my sister, she picks up and she's like, what's going on? I think my parents are already asleep. And I'm like, Alice, my phone is dying. And she's like, what? And I'm like, my phone is dying. I'm on a bus. It's storming. I don't know how I'm gonna get home. And I'm like saying all this stuff. And then my phone decides to just cut off and die. And that was the end of my phone basically. We then have a drive which is normally about 10-15 minutes to get from Hollywood Studios to the Contemporary, which ends up taking around 40-45 minutes because the storm is so bad. There are kids crying because it's thunder, everyone's miserable, everyone is cold, no one wants to be there, it is late, and I'm thinking, phone's destroyed. That's all I could think, to be honest, at that moment, because as a 22-year-old at the time girl, your phone is like everything and they're expensive and I didn't want to pay for a new phone. All I'm thinking is if this Lyft driver had only driven in to the area where it was supposed to pick me up, I would be fine. Eventually I arrive at the Contemporary. I'm obviously still soaked, sprint inside and towards the monorail area, and as I arrive, cast members are closing off the entrance and they say that the monorail has finished for the night, which was the news I needed to hear at that time. Of course, I basically feel like just bawling, like in a mess, because the rain is obviously still going crazy. I run back downstairs to the front desk and I just ask if there's any way I can get a taxi to take me from Contemporary to Grand Floridian. I go up and they're like, oh, it's a long wait right now, obviously because of the weather. You're gonna have to just sit tight, but we will call one. So I just sit looking like the most dejected little rat probably on this bench waiting while all these fancy people come out of the Contemporary dressed beautifully. Don't know where they're going because they're not going to look beautiful anymore. Dressed beautifully, ready to go wherever they're going, probably some 5-star dining experience, and I'm just chilling out in my cast member rain poncho, which is just a clear knee length situation. And I just, obviously normally you sit on your phone, don't you, in those situations, but I was just staring at my feet like, what am I gonna do? So probably around 25 minutes later, then the taxi arrives to take me to the hotel, which is about a 4-minute drive from this point. I get in, the driver is trying to make conversation with me, asking, oh, how's your night been? My response, not good. Normally I'm someone that likes to be kind of optimistic and seeing stuff on the bright side and making conversation. Didn't want to hear it. He was like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Any reason why? And I was like, not good. Wasn't in the mood, to be honest. So the rest of the ride he pretty much just sits in silence, allows me to sit in the back and contemplate my poor decisions, the Lyft driver that scammed me over. We arrive at the Grand Floridian and I am charged, I believe, $11 for that tiny ride, which was just the cherry on top of a brilliant night. And you know the best thing? As I walk out of the car, the rain stops. The storm had finished as I arrived at the Grand Floridian. So then obviously I walked through the lobby looking like a mess, and this is like one of the grandest lobbies you've ever seen. People are looking at me and I'm like, you should be in bed right now, don't even look my way, I'm not in the mood. I cut right through the lobby, go to the outside, walk around the little pool, into the building where my family is staying, up the elevator, frozen solid, shaking. I managed to finally get into the room. My mum's obviously been woken up by my sister because I had this phone call about an hour ago and I still haven't got home, and it's about a 15-minute ride, so I should have been back by then, so they were obviously worried. I then basically break down because I'm so relieved to be there, but I'm also just exhausted because these Disney programs in general are so tiring. You'll go the entire time. Add to that the kind of trauma of this situation, and I pretty much just sink down to the floor, so dramatic I know, and just start bawling, and I'm like, I'm so cold, I'm so tired, my phone is broken, my phone's broken, I'm tired, my phone is broken. My mum is literally like, okay, calm down, it's fine. Like, I change into my pajamas and she's like, have a bath, and I'm like, I can't, I have to go to sleep, I have work tomorrow, I need to be up. It's ridiculous looking back, but I was just a mess. So I get into bed with my sister. She is the sweetest. She literally just rolls over and she's like, it'll be fine. I thought I was going to be up all night, just like turning it all over in my mind, but I must have been so exhausted that I just sunk into sleep straight away. Wake up the next morning, immediately reach for my phone, realise it's dead, turn it on. It's the same glitchy situation. It's actually gotten worse overnight, and what we decided to do, thank God my family were there, we drive to Mall Millennia, go to the Apple store and get a new phone. I'd been planning to buy a new phone anyway when I got back to the UK a couple months later because I'd had my previous one for around 3 years, but it just kind of pushed me into getting it a little sooner than I was expecting. So thank God the way I charge my iPhone is I plug it into my laptop, so it backs everything up every time. So I basically do that every day, and I'd done that the previous morning, so the only thing I lost was photos from literally that day. So we managed to transfer everything across, get a new iPhone, finally start to calm down, like the knot in my chest just releases gradually, and I'm like, it's just a phone, it's fine. We go to Cheesecake Factory and my parents treat me and my sister, and we have a nice big old slice of Oreo Dream Extreme to make everything okay again. And I did say if I hadn't had the shift that I did have later that day, it was a nice very chill one in Epcot. If it hadn't been the fact that it was a chill one, I would have called out because I was just mentally, emotionally, physically drained. Like, everything was gone from me. Also, I did hear that the next day at Disney, property-wide, was one of the biggest call-out days ever because people were so busy drying their shoes, they just did not want to come into work. So yeah, this Lyft driver cost me a $5 no-show fee, a $11–12 taxi from the Contemporary to the Grand Floridian, and a $500 new iPhone. Thanks so much. Actually, I'm going to just scroll through my Lyft history and just see who it was that decided to park in a very inconvenient place and not help me out at all. Here it is, 23rd of July 2018, charged a cancelled ride. $5 fee for a no-show at the Hollywood Studios pickup area from Warren. There we have Warren. He looks like a pretty nice guy to me. Not on that night, he wasn't. You know what I'm gonna do? I might just try and see if I can get this money back, because I never actually tried. I was just so overwhelmed. This ride was cancelled and you were charged $5. Is that what you need help with? Yes. What happened? Tell us in a detailed message. Oh. You know what? Maybe I'll just link the YouTube video when it's up. That is the end of my story time. I hope you enjoyed hearing about this very traumatic event. If you did, please give it a thumbs up to let me know you would like more story time videos. I do have many. Also subscribe for more videos. Like I said, very dramatic life sometimes. Happy to share it on the internet for the views. You have to look on the bright side sometimes. Thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you next time. Bye!
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me.